Hey, how's everyone doing? Hope everyone is having a great Wednesday, great middle of the week. Kilgoon's.
I realized I was like way over at the side. But, sorry, I got here a little bit late. The power went out at our main building.
I just missed it.
So
which is wild.
I had to.
I could have been stuck in an elevator.
Yeah,
Chat. It was that close.
It was that close. He almost got stuck in an elevator. But yeah, it took me a little bit longer to get over to this building than normal. So I wasn't here to make sure I was framed somewhat properly.
Yeah. And I guess speaking of that, we can kind of give the community a little bit of news. You know, we did talk about how we moved over to a new building, and this is going to be our last week in this room, chat. So take it in. But super excited to kind of get a new change of scenery next week, which will be exciting.
The show will go on.
Yes.
The show is not over. We just are going to be moving to a different room across the street in the new building. But hopefully there will be no interruption to our flow, and we'll be back on Monday just in a new room. So. Should be fun.
Yeah, should be fun. Well, we don't have a whole lot to talk about on this show. We have hotfixed like 3 times since the update, and a lot of the stuff was stuff that was brought up right here on Titan Talk. So we're super excited to kind of go through those hotfix notes and stuff like that.
Chat wants an old room global emote. Yeah. I don't know what that would even be, but I like it.
Just take a picture whenever you fire it. It just pops up. Yeah.
One more show here on Friday. Yes, and we have a guest on Friday.
Yes.
You want to...
Yeah, I'll spoil it. We're going to have Emma on from our UI team. She's our lead UI designer. She's going to be coming on just to kind of talk a little bit about what she does on a day-to-day basis, talk about the UI process, and we're going to think about kind of spoiling some of the things that are kind of on our UI feature list backlog that we're kind of working on, but we do just want to clue you in on everything that we've got going on the UI front, just because I know we do get a lot of UI questions and UI feature requests here on the show.
Yep, and Emma has been at... just on SMITE for
a long time,
like probably 8 years. I don't know. Maybe I'm slightly over or slightly under. But she's been on the team for a long time. She knows a lot about everything SMITE 1 and SMITE 2. So she might have some fun stories from the SMITE 1 days or, horror stories from the SMITE 1 days. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, she's awesome. I'm excited to have her on the show. Yeah. So new guest. Always fun.
Always fun showing off some new people on the team.
We ask the team like every week, like, hey, does anybody want to come on the show? And, I think it's a little bit intimidating for people that haven't done it before, to kind of put yourself out there in front of the community. So I'm always excited when somebody takes us up on the offer and comes and chats.
So yeah, Friday should be a super awesome show. So, set your bookmarks, your calendars, and your alarms for Friday at 1 p.m. And we'll be talking UI with Emma from the team.
Probably focus more on like, what we're focused on now, new features, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So should be fun.
Sweet. Well, let me bring up the handy dandy laptop and we can go through the hotfix notes from the past couple days. I believe I have 3 batches of notes here on the laptop. So this went out on Monday, shortly after Titan Talk, I believe, with some of the things that were the most emergent after we patched that day. So we fixed an issue where gamepads couldn't scroll the God page as intended. I also want to call out, we did implement the God page no longer resetting back to the top whenever you click into a God and then go back to the God page. That was a request on Titan Talk that kind of snuck in alongside this fix, which is super exciting. We fixed a navigation issue with gamepads and the God builder when the list is empty. We fixed an issue where Transcendence and Book of Thoth could get their passive stuck on. And then lastly, for the Monday hotfix, we fixed an issue where Bari's death immunity would impact Kali's death immunity. So just some weird interactions there.
Yeah. So, and I believe the specific thing on the God builder was like, it was very hard or impossible to navigate to like create a build if you didn't have a build, which was not the best.
Yeah.
But that was fixed on Monday. So
sweet. Well, let's talk about the first of the hotfixes that went live yesterday. A lot more here. So we fixed an issue on Gamepad where players couldn't undo any purchased items. That was a little bit of a hiccup with the implementation of God Builder, right?
We mapped the console part of God Builder came in like latest, and we inadvertently mapped the button to open God Builder from the store to the same button as undo,
right?
Because whoever was doing the implementation hadn't like bought an item to realize that button was already mapped, you know? So they thought it was a free button when they mapped to it, but it was not. So now to open the God Builder, you push start or menu or whatever in that screen instead of R2, and R2 is still your undo. Yes. So that is fixed that you can now do both.
Cool. We gave Bari a significantly more comfortable pair of shoes. Her feet were kind of curled up on the God screen.
I don't know why that broke, but it just looked silly.
But she's got more comfortable shoes now, and her feet are no longer curled. We fixed an issue with Kali's Ability 3 instance, which was not granting the Strength and Intelligence buff. Kali's ult can no longer be canceled.
Yeah, this was one that was one of those things where it's like you couldn't do it in Smite 1, and we knew that it was different in Smite 2, but then once it went out there, people were like, but why would you ever want to cancel it? And we're like, yeah, that's a good point. You probably don't ever want to cancel it early. So yeah, just got that one in there. Thanks for the feedback from the community that not actually a +1, more of a -1, giving people the opportunity to do that.
And then this next one was from you, Kilgoon. We fixed an issue where heroism was applying shields to multiple people.
Yeah, so I had this sense for a while that we were just getting too much shields in the game, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And then I was going back and I was watching an internal playtest one time, and it was I think it was an Emir freeze that caught like 3 people, and all of them got a shield at once.
Yeah,
and I was like, what the hell just happened here? Is this the thing that's been annoying me?
Right.
And yeah, so heroism was not picking. Basically, it was like it was triggering off of 1 CC, and it was shielding everybody hit by that CC, other than the person who holds the heroism. Instead of picking one person to shield, which is the way it was supposed to work and the way that it works in Smite 1. Yeah. So it makes me happy. Yeah. That got fixed.
I know that's something that we've been talking about pretty frequently over the past week or so in internal playtest, just about shields in the game and, potential for more anti-shield items and stuff like that. We fixed an issue where Ancient Signet was sometimes proccing more than once. We added function that will preload the next set of builds that players can't see when they reach the bottom of the page in God Builder. And then lastly, we adjusted Kali's ability timings to more closely match the animation and effect. So just overall feels changes for Kali to hopefully make her feel a little bit better when you're playing her.
Yeah, we got some feedback. There were just kind of a couple things that were, fractions of a second off. But if you've played a lot of Kali in Smite 1, you might have noticed some of those things. So thanks for the feedback from the community on those things, and they should be fixed.
Cool. All right, and then our last hotfix notes, part 2 from April 22nd. We fixed an issue where Worldstone was triggering cooldown reduction on the inventory swap. So if you're changing your inventory, it was triggering that cooldown reduction unintentionally. So that's been fixed.
So you could kind of abuse it while sitting, or while swapping it to reset your ultimate cooldown. And thanks to a member of the community tagged myself and Pompon about this and let us know that it was out there. So thanks for letting us know.
We fixed an issue with Stone of Binding, and it should now be working more closely as intended.
Yes, and specifically, it was not applying the protection reductions. Yes. So it just was not. It was not binding. It was just stone.
Yeah.
Stone of Binding should now be working. So if you tried it early in the patch and you're like, this doesn't feel very strong, it should feel better now.
Yeah. We fixed Mulan's passive cooldown reduction to work properly. Another thing that was called out on Titan Talk.
Yeah, and I believe actually somebody mentioned it again in like a YouTube comment or something on Titan Talk, and I was like, we should look into this one.
Yeah.
Should be good as new. So basically the way part of her passive is that every 10 seconds, the next ability she uses, she gets 2 seconds off the cooldown of that ability. And that has not been working properly for, I believe, 3 months, as the person has been, that wrote the message said. So glad that we were able to take a quick look at that and get that fixed.
Yeah. And then last, but certainly not least, we fixed an issue where Archmage's Gem was not properly proccing. So all you Nuwa enjoyers that have been commenting, letting us know that she hasn't been able to proc Archmage's Gem in certain scenarios, that should be fixed up.
Yeah, I believe this is Nuwa alt, and also for Aphrodite
the
back off. So those should both be fixed now. I was talking with Pawn about this in particular, and he said that this is a very weird item from an implementation standpoint. So if the community sees any other instances of Archmage's Gem in particular not proccing the way they would expect it to, please let us know. It's relatively quick for him to fix it.
Yep.
Now that he understands what the issue with it is, but it just is a little bit of manual implementation and hard to find the abilities where it isn't properly proccing. So let us know if there's anywhere else that we missed.
Absolutely. Well, those are all the 3 hotfixes that have gone out since we released on Monday. I believe we've got another hotfix in flight for some more things. I saw Kabir post a message. It was either late last night or early this morning with a build that he was prepping. So just keep an eye out for that and keep on reporting those bugs, and we'll get them fixed.
And I have one specifically for Helaron. We have figured out why vibrations were not working on controllers.
There we go, yeah.
So that has been fixed internally. I don't know if it's going to be in the next hotfix or one after that or something like that. But that should be fixed soon and coming back. So apologies, it took us a little while to get that sorted, but we did figure it out.
Sometimes we just have those issues that are just super hard for us to nail down.
Yeah.
But when we find it, we can get it fixed really quick.
This is one where it was explained to me, but I'm not a tech guy. But basically, like there was a hard-coded variable that was overwriting a variable that was being set elsewhere to make it not work. So that is the cause, as much as I can describe as a non-technical person. And once they realized that, then they were able to get it fixed. So it should be in the next build. There is a couple other things people said. Do you know console can't pin, unpin, or like God Builder builds in the Gods page menu? Yes, that we are aware of that, and that should be in OB9. Bigger God Builder. God Builder, this was version 1. There were a few things that didn't make it in, and that was unfortunately one of them, so that should be fixed in OB9. Umoja bouncing bubble is not going through walls anymore is a new report for me. Can you type that?
Yes,
I forgot to bring my notepad today.
Type it up.
Thank you. And there was another one that I was going to respond to, but I missed it. Oh, please fix being unable to click the empty relic space to bring up the relic menu. I thought that was fixed, but I will take a look at that because it's possible that it did not get fixed. So I will take that note if you can take it.
Yeah.
Sweet. Anything else that you wanted to talk about today before we get started?
I think that was pretty much it. Just going over the hotfix notes, giving the community a little bit of insight on what our Friday plan is with Emma on the UI team. Should be a fun show. But outside of that, I think we can just open the floor up for the rest of the show and do community Q&A and hang out and talk SMITE 2 for a little bit.
Sweet. Please fix Emir not having 3 aspects. Sure. We'll get right on that one. I will say, played Jungle Emir yesterday.
He was doing so much damage, chat. It was insane.
It's so much fun.
You had a really good game yesterday.
It was fun. But then we ended up not finishing the game because we're currently in the middle of upgrading our Unreal 5 version.
Yeah,
right?
From 5.3 to 5.5.
Yeah,
5.4.
Yeah. And so we were playtesting on the new branch of Unreal 5 yesterday, and there were enough issues. This was the first time we playtested on it, so there were a few issues that we need to go back and fix, and we just didn't end up ending the game. We're just we've discovered enough problems that we should call it here, which sometimes happens because we don't playtest to win.
Right.
But yeah, man, I was walking up to people, like, bam, bam, bam. It was great. It's a lot of fun.
Face punch Emir, for sure.
But then Clumsy started coming. Yep. So this is the way things go. When will we start hearing about stuff coming in OB9? Yeah, so that'll be Monday.
Yeah, Monday show.
So Monday we'll be going over Guan Yu, and then other features in this update.
Yeah.
I want to say that I don't want to undersell it, but I think that this is a little bit of a lighter update compared to the last few beyond Guan. There's still going to be a lot of good stuff, don't get me wrong, but there's not a God Builder type marquee feature that's coming in this update, I don't believe. So we'll go through everything on Monday. We'll look at the skins and all that stuff like we normally do. There is some fun stuff, but yeah, I just want to set expectations a little bit that it's probably not quite as heavy as these last few patches that had just a ton of stuff.
Yeah, OB8 was a big update, so I feel like OB9 is going to be just us kind of, finishing up where we left off with OB8 on things like God Builder, getting those more requested features in. I know the item pass, we always said that OB9 was going to be kind of our third step in making sure that, we kind of finished things off. Well, not finish things off, but taking everything from OB8 since it was so huge and then using OB9 and some of the hot fixes leading into OB9 is kind of our, what did we miss here? Anything else that we need to adjust and kind of wrap things up?
Yeah, I think there is quite a bit more on the balance, side that they are doing. I was speaking more from the feature side, which is probably the wrong way to approach things. But yes,
it's still going to be a big update.
It's still going to be a big.
Got some new
update.
skins and stuff too that we'll show off on Monday. So yeah, it should be a big show.
Yep. There was one thing interesting question for me. How often do you have to update Unreal versions? Does it usually require code fixing? So we are not required to update Unreal functions ever, or Unreal versions ever, but it usually comes with some performance improvements and some new features and they don't like continue to support the older version. So if there's some core Unreal bug that's found, then we're just kind of on our own to fix it. Like either just integrating that part of the code or, just making the full upgrade. Frustratingly, as anybody who's worked in software development knows, every time somebody makes a new version, they inevitably change some things that will break your game.
Yeah.
So there are a few things that, you kind of have to go line by line to merge the new version into our current version because we've made changes to core Unreal 5 to be able to support our kind of game. So it is quite a bit of work that we usually put a pretty senior engineer on. We generally, because it is such a big piece of work, we generally don't pick up every like minor version, but a couple times a year, maybe like once or twice a year, we'll kind of do a bigger pass to pick up the new, whatever the then current newest version is. Yeah. So I know that like there was one of the things yesterday was like any transparent texture was appearing as like a gray box, gods were sorted in the wrong order on the menu. Like there's just a bunch of weird things that rely on certain functions in Unreal that were changed between 5.3 and 5.5. So it's software development. It's kind of what you expect on that front.
One thing that I did want to call out, just because I know some players may have seen it and were maybe impacted, we did attempt to turn on the new deserter changes yesterday, but we turned them off after about an hour or so just because we did find an issue, or we were getting a lot of reports where players were still sometimes getting deserter, even though the game told them that the match was safe to leave. So that's been turned off for a little bit while we investigate those issues, but should hopefully have those back on within the next couple hotfixes or so.
Oh, that's good feedback. Turn colorblind on wards. Are ward health bars not respecting colorblind settings? I had no idea. I do not play colorblind.
Let's see here. Please fix Rama's self nameplate blocking his view when he ultimates. I'm taking a note of that.
I do know that they were working on nameplate height adjustments yesterday. Not specifically related to this issue, but it may be fixed it. But Lino would be the person to tag about that because he was working on it yesterday.
Yeah. This is a good stats question that you may not know the answer to, but do we have numbers on how many community builds have been made so far, or which gods have the most community builds? Do you know if we started tracking that stuff?
I'm sure that we do. I know that when we looked on PTS, that Kali overwhelmingly had the most because she was the new god. And so I would expect that Kali still has the most. But I don't know how many overall have been created yet. We could pull that, I'm sure.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Cool stat to show off on Friday. Let's see here. Hey guys, none of the progress for the Easter event is tracking for me. I've been grinding the challenges since Monday across Conquest Arena and Joust, and nothing. I believe there was an issue with this. The event didn't even turn on Monday due to some issues, and I believe we had those fixed, and that's when we turned the event back on. But I'll take a note.
There were a very small handful of people that, if you logged in very quickly after the update when it first turned on, so last week before Easter, there were a couple people that got caught in a weird state where like they had part of the event but not the other part flagged on their account. So if that sounds like you maybe signed in to SMITE 2 right after the event was turned on, you might need to put in a support ticket. But if it's been more just like the past couple of days, then it might be related to the event stuff. Yeah, the vortex thing, we are aware that the vortex thing isn't tracking Poseidon's vortex.
Yeah.
There's one that it's not tracking, but I believe it's tracking some other ones.
I heard that with Poseidon, it may be linked to Aspect Poseidon's vortex.
I would believe that.
Yep. What are the new features planned for God Builder? Would we be able to see the amount of favorites each build has?
Yeah, so the plan is definitely to rank by favorites, but not to specifically surface the amount of favorites. I think that I don't know. Somehow that just felt weirder to us, especially without like a downvote button as well. But we didn't really want to do a downvote button, so we're just I don't know. We just felt like it was better just to rank them by number of favorites. We other stuff that's planned. I'm not sure this is all going to be in OB9, but things that I know that we've talked about. Obviously, we have to fix console being able to pin and favorite builds. Copy 2 is a big part of the system that didn't make it, where basically we want to make it so that if you make a build on Poseidon and you're like, I want to also use this build on Zeus, you could just click copy 2 at the bottom and then choose that I want to copy it to Zeus, and then not have to manually recreate your build across every god. So that's something that's on the to-do list. One of the big things that will almost certainly be in OB9 is integrating it into auto build. So if you pin a build, then you can have that build as one of your auto build selections, which should be nice.
And auto level as well. Correct?
And auto level, yep. And then we did get some feedback that the level up notification on your UI might be too much. I like it, but it does. If you're one of those people that like holds your skills so that you can double level things later or whatnot, it can kind of obscure your cooldown and whatnot. So I know that UI team was looking at that. I don't know specifically if that's going to be in for OB9 or not. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's more stuff that I'm sure I'm forgetting, but yeah, that's kind of some of it. Boosters. I think we are currently talking about boosters for OB10. Specifically, sorry, I should back that up. We're specifically talking about like account boosters for OB10, like being able to, I buy a 30-day boost and I get, increased XP kind of thing. We do have a concept of skin boosters in Assault right now, but it still needs a little bit more work before I think we're completely happy with that. Yeah. And then we kind of have some of the background tech for like XP boosters, but we don't really have a good way of distributing those right now. So we didn't do the rest of the work to be able to do that. Yep.
Can we change the Kill 10 Minotaurs daily mission? It's really unfun and grindy.
I will answer that 1 second. I just saw something. Cool. Search bar for God Builder. Yes, search is another thing that we want for God Builder. I'm not sure if it's going to be in 9, but that is another big one that we know we need. Kill 10 Minotaurs is unfun and grindy. Is that?
I think it's a wandering market quest.
Okay. Might be too much. I don't know how many people kill in an average day.
I will take a note. One thing,
does that count the?
I'm pretty sure it counts the Conquest Minotaurs.
Yeah.
But if you don't play Conquest and you only play Arena, I could see how that could get kind of.
Because you see like 2 or 3 a match, I guess probably. So I could see that could be a little bit too much. And if you're the jungler killing Minotaurs, it's an easy. Yeah. Will we get a big ward skin chest like we got for music? Probably not anytime soon, I would say. Ward skins are... This goes back to like the differences between Unreal 3 and Unreal 5. So in order, even if we were just to port all the ward skins over, we would have to redo the materials, the textures of those, because the way that materials are made in Unreal 3, they're not... Unreal 3 is not physically based rendering. It's like baked in. I'm not an artist, but like the depth and texture of and the lighting on things are baked into the texture, and it's a different technique to build the textures in Unreal 5. So everything that we bring over, we have to completely redo the textures. That's part of like the process of porting. So it would be a lot of work to not like an unsurmountable amount of work, but it would be a good amount of work to bring over all of the ward skins, where audio is audio, and there is work on our side to hook up, make sure that we have the right tech to support it and that everything is plugged in correctly and yada, yada, yada. But it's just a different scope of work to bring over an announcer pack or I guess a music pack than it is to bring over a ward skin. There's a new ward skin that looks like a chalice spilling pink lemonade. What's that all about? We accidentally turned on an event
pink
a little
Alani.
bit early. Pink Alani. No, we turned on the next event a little bit early in the background. So some people accidentally already completed the next event and got that as a reward. If you did, sorry, or congratulations, whichever you prefer. But yeah, we will. There'll be another event turning on Monday, I think, probably.
Yes, I believe so.
Where you can get that board skin for free. So it's pretty cool. Alani check. It is early, but we were talking about Alani.
I've got Orange Kiss today.
Cherry Twist.
There you go. Let's see.
This got timed out, but I will answer it.
Probably, I think it was just too long.
I think it was too long. Yeah, there's like a length limit, but I think that this is a good like meta question, so I will read it out because people can't see it. Hey guys, can I offer a critique on the Titan Talk format? I think we should be discussing less on Monday shows, talk about patches, and God preview and future plans on Fridays. It's a bit front-loaded in terms of digestible information, and you'd be better served to get us all excited by week's end so we can process the information by the following Monday to discuss patches. So we're kind of in this cycle for a few reasons. Yeah. The first one is that more than anything else, we are attached to the development cycle, and the development cycle is where it is and isn't changing to fit this show. It's more important that we move as fast as we can and get a lot of great stuff out every update at this point in the game's life than that we turn everything into like a big marketing event and we tease everything in the proper way and whatnot. Like if I put my marketing hat on, I'd be like, this is a horrible way for us to be doing things, right? But that's not what's most important to the game right now. So we need to work around a couple things. One of them is like, when do we branch? And branching is basically the point at which you say, we're drawing a line. This is the stuff that's in the update, and we're going to keep fixing it from this point, but we aren't adding anything new after branch. And so we branch on usually over the weekend before our Monday show. So we don't know for sure what's going to be in the patch until like we come in Monday morning and we go through and we make sure we understand what's going to be in the patch. And we have a plan for what's going to be in the patch, but sometimes things don't get done. And, so we can't start talking in full detail about it on Friday because we don't know for sure what the list of stuff is until the Monday. Then, we've tried in the past holding some stuff from that Monday show to talk about later, so it's less front loaded, which is like there's just a ton of information in this show. But again, because of the way the flow works, we need to start flash testing on Tuesday. So anything that we don't talk about on Monday, everybody's just going to see in flash test on Tuesday. And we have seen consistently over the years that things are better received if we have a chance to explain them first and just like why we think it's a good idea, why we put time into it, why we're excited about it, what the design intent was behind some balance changes or whatnot, versus just throwing it out there and letting people draw their own conclusions, right? Because it feels like, why did they do this? They didn't tell us they were doing it kind of thing. And it's almost always a little bit more negative. So we feel like we need to get a lot of the info out before flash testing starts. So those two dates kind of confine a lot of our Monday is the only day we can really talk about it, where it's like, we can't talk about it before then because we aren't sure what's going to be in the update. And if we talk about it on Wednesday, then people have already gotten to play it in the flash test. So that's why the format is what it is. I agree. We would rather spread things out a little bit or, do more traditional teaser cycles heading into new updates and stuff. But for where we are in the development, I think that it makes the most sense. Yeah. Who has the last say if you have a disagreement about development, or is it majority rule? That's an interesting question. I think that generally speaking, different studios are structured differently. We've found that the creative process is well served by having everybody giving ideas and feedback, but at the end of the day, you need, I lost my chat. I pushed something. At the end of the day, you need somebody making the final decision or else nothing gets done. And we've seen this on some of our teams in the past, or teams that are afraid of conflict because like everybody, like this is a creative business, but everybody's very like, what's the word I'm even looking for? Like everybody's going to be passionate about the things that they are working on. And so like some sort of conflict and argument is healthy and part of that. So how do you pick like who has the final say if there's a disagreement? So it's definitely not majority rule, I guess I'd say, right? But we do get feedback from everybody on what they think is best. And we have passionate discussions about it. Final decision, it depends on what level the discussion is taking place at, right? So normally it's like the lead or the director, depending on the department, right? So, if there's an art thing, Ben is going to have the final call most of the time. If there's an overall like game strategy thing, Travis is going to have the final call most of the time because he's the general manager of the studio. And at the end of the day, everybody has a boss, right? So if the owner of Hi-Res wants something to be a certain way and he tells us that that's the way it should be, then we're going to have a discussion about it. But sometimes, you do what the owner says, right? And it's the same across any company ever, right? So it's like everybody has a boss they report to. The more senior you are, the more your final call is. But I think the other thing that we see is that just like it's, what am I trying to say? The more senior you are, the less you're pulling that card usually, right? It's better if things can be decided at a lower level. Like, and as a leader, I'm not like the senior leader here, but as a leader, I prefer if somebody comes to me with like, here are the options, this is what I believe in and why. 99% of the time, I'm going to say, let's do the thing you believe in, right? Sometimes, and usually I just because I think it's like a good thing to do as a leader, I push back a little bit on their thought process and be like, okay, explain to me, did you think about this angle? Just poke a couple times to make sure they've got it fully thought through. But then they're like, yeah, this is good. I'm like, cool, do it, right? But if somebody just comes to you as a leader, and this is good advice for anybody that's like junior in your career too, do not go to your boss with, do you want A, B, or C, with no further feedback, because they're going to pick something and it's not going to be what you're happy with. And you're going to be like, my boss is such an idiot. I don't know why he picked C. I wanted A. And it's like, you didn't tell him what you wanted or why you believed in A, right? So that's just maybe good feedback for your careers to, you should go to your boss with here are the options. And this is, we need a call, but be like, and this is what I think we should do and why, right? So, maybe more career advice than people want from this show, but I don't know.
That's good insight. Give them a little nugget. Any plans on different ways to get prisms, like challenges or prism tokens?
So there probably will be in the future some way to get prisms, but we don't have a firm plan for it right now. So I would say, if you're waiting, it's going to be at least a couple months before there's any way to get prisms, for free. I think we do feel like there's probably a place for, this is literally just me spitballing. Please do not come back to me on Reddit in a month saying Kilgoon said. But like, I could see putting like a prism token in a wandering market or something, right? Or, you get prism shards as part of your daily logins. And once you've accumulated enough, then you can put them together and get a prism, I think that like there's a lot of systems that we could do that would allow people to get some number of free things, because I do think that like it's important that there's a free path to most things in the game. And technically you can just earn free diamonds until you can afford it. But I think that like it would probably be better for there to be a slightly more direct path towards free prisms. But it's just not quite top of our priority list right now.
Do we know that titles almost never display above people's heads, even though the setting is turned on? It's been an issue since day one of 24/7 alpha.
Can you take a note on that?
Yeah,
and we'll ask. I did not know that. Oh, that's hard. What would I give to what would I give to Sylvanas as a +1? I don't know. See, he's just perfect as he is, right? Does he really need anything else? No, you know what I would give him? I would give him the knockback on his auto attack again.
Mm-hmm.
That was so good.
Oh yeah.
The minion knockback on his auto attacks was great. But no, I don't know. I think that one of the more fun things to do at the beginning of the game is Sylvanas that not many Sylvanas do, is I always go to every lane and leave them a plant under their tower, right? And I like that aspect of his kit. I don't know what I would do to more encourage the way of using the plants versus it's just your root tool basically. Mm-hmm. But I would try and, from my perspective, I would try and do something to make that like more supportive plant your plants part of his kit come out just a little bit more, right? Yeah. Because you're still going to want to use it to root most of the time, but just give me a little bit more of a reason to use it other than in the first minute of the game to help my lane regen mana kind of thing. Yeah.
In God Select, since we can't see our team members and what skin they are using, is there a way to just put the skin name next to their god name or something to let us know what skin they're using?
So you do see it as soon as we get to the loading screen. It shows what skin everybody's using. I would say there's a lot of things that we want to change about the lobby. And I don't know if we would Band-Aid in the skin name. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know how much it would really help people, because I think that the thing that helped more with the old version was that, like, you saw the skin and you made that connection. Whereas it's like, if I see the name, do I know what that really means? And the first time I see it, am I still surprised? Right. So, I appreciate the problem you're trying to solve, but I don't know
for people that want to coordinate, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I want
that's fair. I didn't even think about that use case.
Get the gentleman skin team going.
I didn't think about the coordinating use case. That is a good point.
If I'm Neath and I see a Zeus, do I want to coordinate the EDM skins?
Yeah.
Get the VXG, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think like that being able to see what aspect people are using or if they're using aspect or not is another one. I'm gonna write that down because I have some other notes on that.
Yeah, we've gotten that feedback a lot. I know overall the lobby is something that we've been paying attention to, and it's kind of on our list to revisit at some point.
Aspect. Then what was the other thing? The
skins.
Skin names.
Skin names. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just typing that down. Maybe there's something there. Because I had not thought about the use case of wanting to coordinate, but that is true. Any news on the SMITE 2 Artisans program? I believe that we're still going through applications, and that was the last that I had heard. Mm-hmm. But we got a decent number of applications, and I think they're just working through them. But if you have any other questions about it, let me know.
And I would imagine that. So looks like applications for the first round close tomorrow at 11:59 ET, so the end of the day. So I would imagine early next week is when we'll start reaching out to people, and or not early next week, maybe on Friday.
Yeah. Sweet. How many applications came through? I don't know the exact number, but I know that Ben said there were quite a few. Have merch licenses gone out yet? I don't think so. I think we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah. Just a little bit more legal work to do. We had to kind of revisit the license that we had previously, just to make some changes and stuff like that, specifically around what happens after someone reaches the cap. What's the next step in the process?
Yeah, and I think that we just basically wanted to make it clear that like your agreement doesn't expire once you hit the cap. It's more just like we need to agree that if you manage to make $2,500.
Yep.
If you manage to make $2,500 off selling SMITE merch, then after that you would need to have a small revenue share. I don't even remember what number we agreed on, but some revenue share of future proceeds. So, and like we were also talking about like how do we not like burden our accounting department with a check for 80 cents or something. So there's a lot of discussion around that.
Yeah.
Do you listen to podcasts?
Yeah.
Do you listen to podcasts?
I do listen to podcasts.
What do you listen to?
Gosh, I listen to a few. I listen to Wizard and the Bruiser is a good podcast.
Okay.
Basically, every week they talk about something in nerdverse fandom and just talk about the history, how it was created, how they got to where they are now. It's a really good series. Yeah.
My most listened to is probably Lateral, which is Tom Scott from YouTube.
Yeah.
He does this show called Lateral where it's like a panel show where he has 3 different guests every week, and they ask they like make a statement and then they're like, why is that the thing? Yeah. And then the panel just kind of talks about like figuring out like why could that possibly be the reason. It's from that show that I learned that so like the way this isn't exactly how it is, but like the way the question be phrased, like in Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, the game was released on the Wii U or not the Wii U, the Wii U and the GameCube and the Wii. GameCube and the Wii.
Yeah.
And the game is exactly identical between the two, except the entire game is mirrored on one platform.
Oh, wow.
So what was left is now right. Why? And then they just have to talk about it and figure out the problem. And spoilers, if you want to go watch the episode yourself, it's because Link is canonically left-handed. Mm-hmm. But on Wii, you're swinging your Wiimote to sword fight, and it felt weird for people to have to do that with their right hand and see the left hand fighting on the screen. So the devs literally mirrored the entire game. So like if you would have to go left in a dungeon, you now have to go right in the dungeon. They didn't just change him, they changed the entire game. They just flipped it, mirrored, so that it wouldn't feel weird when you were playing with a Wiimote. So anyway, yeah, it's a neat little thing. And there's a lot of non-gaming ones. There's actually very few gaming ones, but I just thought the community would maybe appreciate the gaming one. But it's a good podcast. I shouldn't answer this one, but I will. There's been a lot of discourse about Prism pricing. Has this been read, fed back, analyzed? Will past Prisms be adjusted accordingly? Realistically, we aren't sure the best way to price these yet. This is a completely new feature for us that we've never had any real analog for in any of our games. You can say that we kind of did with the Color Forge, but it was a very different system and we didn't charge for those ever. Mm-hmm. They were just free quest rewards. So we really aren't sure what we should charge for them. I will say the community is very vocally saying that they should be, they should be flat priced. They should be inexpensive. So far we have seen very little price sensitivity. And we have also seen, there does not seem to make a difference whether they are scaled or whether they are flat. So if I was a cold-hearted business person, the data that we have right now would suggest that we should just price them all to be very expensive. I don't think that we are going to go that route, but that is as much data as we have right now. It does not align with what the community is saying they believe, because people are the way that people are actually buying things, it just doesn't line up with the discourse. That said, I think that, we're just kind of continuing to run experiments right now. And that's part of why every Prism that we put out so far has been priced differently, because we're trying to ascertain, like, if we can find any real numerical insights to say that this is or isn't better, or, it's better for players, it's better for revenue, like anything that jumps out at us. Because the problem right now is that we only have like 3 or 4, or I guess since this week we have 5 Prisms in game, 5 skins with Prisms. And how much of that is impacted by the popularity of the gods versus the skins versus the Prism quality itself. It's very difficult to figure out exactly like what the right pricing is. But we're just going to keep running experiments, and then we'll figure out as the data suggests, we'll go that way. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that's decent. Oh, and I do have one, there was a follow-up question, which is great. What about Prism's bundles? This is something that we really want to do, but we don't have the tech to display bundles very well. Just in our store right now, we can create bundles, but it's like, where would we sell you a bundle? Because the way that our store is sorted, there's like, you can go to the gods tab and you can buy skins, or there's like the featured skins area, but like there's not there's just not like a good area to buy a bundle. So the concern is, do we go to the effort of making a bundle and then people don't see it and then they get upset because they buy one in another way and then they're like, oh, I could have saved money on this bundle, but it wasn't presented in the same place. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but we are continuing to figure that out. There's one other question here, which is related to Prisms, which I will finish strong on.
We're on Prisms. Let's keep talking about them.
It is, where is it? The Prisms combo chest. So I assume that you're saying, I would like a chest that's just full of prisms and let me roll prisms. So the problem with this is that our tech does not, if for some reason you get a prism, but you don't own the base skin, you could just use that prism. We don't gate like your ability to use a prism by ownership of the skin. Instead, we gate your ability to acquire a prism just in the way that we present it in the store from an ownership of a skin. So to make a chest of prisms, we would have to somehow require you to own the skins first, or set up a really complicated loot table where you would roll the skin before you could roll any prisms for that skin in the chest. And it just sounds like a configuration nightmare for us. So we have had those discussions. And I think that like, we know that our players prefer to buy things in chests. Like it's always been that way. You know, again, as much as people like to complain about chests, like people will overwhelmingly choose to buy things in chests because it's a discounted way of getting content. Right. And they would probably sell better if they were in chests, but we just don't have a good like technical solution for how we do a chest right now. So again, way too much technical discussion about something as dumb as prisms, but maybe it's interesting to people. I don't know. Pick one while I drink some beverage.
Let's see here. Is it easier to make a skin at the same time you make the initial god model? If so, can we get a Fafnir skin? That they're just trying to bait me for the Fafnir skin comment. You know?
Interestingly, it is more difficult to make a skin when we are making the god, because normally there's a lot of like evolution with a god before they're finalized and before they're released, right? Sometimes it's effects timing, sometimes it's abilities themselves, sometimes it's animations are getting tweaks to read differently. Like, and if we are trying to make a skin in parallel with the base god, then anything that changes about the base god also has to change about the skin. So it tends to create like double work, which is why we've moved to the model recently of releasing skins for gods like about a month after the god releases in SMITE 2, because that gives us enough of like we can start on the parts that we know aren't going to change on the skin. And then the things that are more likely to change, like animations, FX, audio stuff, that can be incorporated into that part of the pipeline after the god is locked. So poor Fafnir. That's not really the point of that, but that answered the question.
Can we remove the black haze on the bottom of the card art when loading into a match if I don't have any badges or trackers on? I'd rather see the full card artwork.
Yeah, so I believe that's baked into the cards that we're using there. So it's not like a layer that we could just turn off. We would have to have two separate versions of the cards that we loaded. But so I'm going to say probably not. I do agree that it makes the cards look kind of barren. But I want it to be much easier for people to equip your badges across all gods, which I think will help a lot. Because I think like you would still need to equip trackers on a god by god basis just because they are god specific things that are being tracked. But I think that that'll help a lot, making the game look less barren from that perspective. Can we upload a podcast version of Titan Talk to places like Spotify for those who don't want to sit around for a stream or a video? We were uploading it to Spotify, but nobody was listening to it on Spotify, so we stopped. But it is on YouTube, and you can watch YouTube audio only, and I do that sometimes with some shows, so that could be an option for you. Yeah, I'm a Spotify user too. It was like very few people were choosing to listen to it on Spotify, so it just didn't seem like it was worth the effort.
Well, this is a fun one. At what point do you think SMITE will have too many gods? 130, 140, 200?
I don't know. I don't think
it's a tough one, right?
I don't know if there is a number that is too many. I think that the only real issue with having too many gods is it makes it harder for new players to come into the game, because there's like this base level of knowledge you have to get about like, what can this character do to me, and how can I work with this character as well. So that's really the issue with having a lot of characters. But I think we've seen, I don't think the difference, just in terms of like in your play experience, the difference between having 130 gods and 170 gods probably isn't that much. Like, I don't think it makes the game like that much more complicated for you. And it increases the variety of games, but you aren't going to play so many games in a week that you really are going to see that many more different mix-ups. So I don't know. I personally feel like we could have an infinite number of gods and the game would still be great and interesting. I think there's enough interesting kit ideas. Mm-hmm. I think that there's so many interesting mythological figures and mythologies that we just haven't touched. Like I said, I've talked about this before. I have a slideshow that has like probably 100 gods.
I was going to say it's more than 100. Yeah.
and at least, what would you say? Like at least 50 of them are like good ideas.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like some of them are like, okay, guys. But like a lot of them are really fleshed out, and like, here's the unique hook of the character, and you know, like this is the visually, and like you're like, yeah, man, I'd like to play that character, and it's like, we can't get to that for a while because we have so many other gods, you know. So I would like to just keep putting out new gods for, you know, eternity, but we'll see how far we're lucky to do it. Are there some gods that we won't port over from SMITE 1, or is the plan to port them all? I think the plan is to eventually get to them all. I will say some may take longer than others just because of, you know, technical issues or, you know, how we prioritize. But the plan is to eventually get to them all. That is our hope. When Dota 2 was created from Dota, they got through the first, I don't know, I want to say 100 pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And then it took a while to get the last few. And I don't know if it was because they felt like they'd hit an inflection point where they didn't really need the rest of them, or if because they were more technical and they just, or more artistic. Sometimes it's like there's more artistic challenges behind characters too. Like Scylla is less of a technical challenge around the god's gameplay, but more of a challenge around like how to make like her dog legs work, you know? So it can be things like that. But yeah, like, I will stop there, or I will keep talking.
Why doesn't the T-screen show how much damage was reduced by prots like SMITE 1? I'll take a note.
I mean, it could. I think that our feeling was that the most important thing about the death recap and T-screen should be to quickly understand who the threats are and what type of damage they're dealing to you, right? And I think that's something that was harder to understand from the old T-screen presentation. That screen had a lot of just like information, which some of it was useful to certain players, but I think for the core purpose of Izanami is dealing a lot of physical damage to me, I should buy a physical damage item, or I should try and assassinate her first, or I should avoid her in team fights, right? Those are kind of like the three potential outcomes of knowing that information. But I think that like that's the information that we're trying to convey with Death Recap and T-screen more than anything else. And the other stuff can be a little superfluous. I think two things that I feel like are missing from the T-screen right now are specifically identifying the killing blow, like what killed you, and the number of times that you were hit by a thing. So it's like, I took 1,800 damage from Izanami basic attacks. Was that I was hit 3 times by Izanami basic attacks and they were crits? Was it, you know, like, I think that we're missing that. So I think that those are the two biggest adds that we need to get into that screen.
Yeah. Thoughts on a new player queue with just 15 to 20 gods available for new players to learn slowly? I know you've been thinking a lot about the new player experience over the past week or so.
Dota did something like this for a while, and I think it's okay. I think the problem is that you're so greatly restricting the matchmaking pool with the number of people that want to play with a restricted god pool. It just doesn't. I think that like it's harder to get decent matches because of that. Yeah. We do, to some extent, the game does onboard you a little bit in that way by only having a handful of gods that are AI. So you're playing against the same 12 gods or so for your first few matches. And most players will then play a few more AI games even after they're, not forced to play AI games. And I think that kind of helps a little bit. But the restricted god pool PvP matches, I think, are just, it's hard to have enough players to make those interesting, I would say. Rank the Final Fantasy 14 expansions. I only played through Stormblood, which is like the third or fourth expansion. And I very much enjoyed it. It's a great game. I just fell out of it around then and didn't come back. So I don't know if Wind Waker is number one, because that's what this comment says. But good game. I like MMOs. Yeah. It's a good one.
Have we ever thought about letting players change their abilities or aspect in the first minute of game in case they choose the wrong one by mistake or need to adjust due to the enemy team comp?
So I think that like aspect is one of those things that we would not do, because I think that's more like you're picking a god to us, right? I think the thing, and then abilities, I just don't know how we would do that. Yeah. Like if you accidentally rank the wrong one,
do it in a way to where like you couldn't do it if you fired the ability, just in case there's like, I don't know, thinking about like Sylvanas, like if you go around and put plants underneath the towers and then go say, oops, I want my other ability now. Yeah. That's probably not a fun experience. Yeah.
Although you shouldn't start polls. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, that's an interesting one. I'm going to put a note there. Sorry, I'm just making a note real quick. The one thing that we have been talking about is, should we allow people to change their relic like in a game?
Yeah.
Because I think that's one where it's maybe a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. Especially if it's in the very first, few minutes of the game.
And so I think there's two ways of going about that, right? Is it either like you can change it for free in the first minute or whatever, or is it like for 2,000 gold you can change it late game or something?
Ooh,
right?
That's spicy. Yeah.
Or maybe there's a time limit on it, right? Like this is like a very early discussion that we had. I think it came out the other day because Travis was playing. I think he was playing Thor Jungle, and which is fine.
This game, I remember.
And he, what relic did he pick?
I'm pretty sure he had either Blink or Sunder. And
he had Blink or Sunder, and he was like, "Oh my god, I'm going to lose this game because I didn't pick beads."
Yeah,
I made a mistake at the beginning of the game, and I will lose the entire game because of it. Whereas, like, if you pick the wrong ability, like maybe you're disadvantaged for a minute or two, but it's not like the entire game is thrown. And if you pick an aspect or non-aspect version of a god, I think that's kind of just like, I don't think it throws the game to have picked the wrong aspect. Whereas like, if it's like, oh, their team is Ymir, Yemoja, Odin, Thor, and nobody on our team bought a Phantom Shell. Yeah. Like, fuck. Like, right? Like, I mean, there's times when it's like, I feel like it's an in-game decision, which is different in my mind. And it's like, you should maybe be able to change that at some point. But again, it's a touchy topic. We don't have a firm design for it. It's just something that we've been talking recently that's in the same lines as what people are talking about. So, oh God, chat wants 3 relics now. Come on.
3. Oh my goodness. I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but any updates on the replay system?
Not since last time we talked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just not really been a top priority. I think getting it to the state that it was at was a priority for getting to do esports in Vegas. But there's not, we aren't currently doing a lot more work on it. I do know that there was some people that wanted to know like if they could get like whitelisted to be able to do it. And I don't have any more information on the process for that. So. Let's see.
Are there any plans to update the bases in Conquest at all? I feel like there's sort of remnants of the old art style. It needs some stylizing and updates compared to the rest of the map.
We do have concepts for new Conquest bases.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that was top on the team's list before they did Joust. I don't know what our top environment art priorities are right now, but I would agree with you that the bases are one of the weaker parts of the map. I think the Chaos base in particular is bad. I think the Order base is just a lot of the same texture. That it just has that marble texture everywhere. But I don't think that it's as bad if I'm rating levels of badness, but yeah, I agree. They need to be updated, but it's just, I don't know what the top priority is right now for environment.
Cool. All right. Well, we are past 2 p.m.
Oh, are we? See, so I screwed up my chat somehow. So I just had it small in the corner.
I don't know how you did that.
And I don't
figure
have
it
time.
out for the next show.
So yeah.
So it's time for
one more question.
And we will get back into it.
Yeah. Hopefully the power's back on in the other building by now. So otherwise we'll be going back to not do work.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the power issue.
Setsuna, we fixed that today, I believe. The Soulmate Stomp from Aphrodite triggering Archmage's Gem and Stone of Binding. Those should be fixed today. So if they are not fixed today, please let us know on Wednesday.
It's not the final one more question here. We'll be here on Friday.
Yeah, we'll be here on Friday with Emma. And when we say one more question, Emma will look at us like,
I know, right?
These guys
we got to get her prepped. You know?
Yeah.
Let's see here.
I'm just going to take a silly one today. I've been big on the silly questions today. I'm sorry. I think it makes the show a little more lighthearted.
Right, yeah.
Can we do a Titan talk with 0 Smite-related questions? Don't get me wrong. I love Smite too. I had thought about...
that would be a fun one,
right?
It would have to be on a lighter week to where we don't have like big plans to
Yeah.
talk about anything crazy.
And I feel like we would still need like some kind of like a program, and not just like just ask us non-Smite questions.
Yeah. And we'd have to do something before the show to like let people know, like, hey, if you're just tuning in, we're not talking about Smite today.
Yeah.
We're talking about other fun stuff. But
like
yeah,
my the thought I had, I didn't mention this to you, but for one thing that a lot of like I used to be in like journalism before I made lots of career moves, but one thing that like a lot of like journalism things do is like year in review. And I was thinking like around New Year's last year, like we could do like our favorite games of 2024 that we played show, and just talk about other games for a little bit and then answer non-Smite questions. My 3 favorite games that I played last year that are not Smite, obviously, are I played Deathloop finally for the first time last year.
Great,
and Deathloop was incredible. Mini Shoot Adventure, which is a top-down like bullet hell shooter meets Legend of Zelda Metroidvania. It's made by like 2 people. It's on Steam. It's incredible. It's just got a lot of like goodness about it. And then I forget what my 3rd favorite game was. I had like a top 3 list. I don't even remember what the other one was. I remember. Pseudo Regalia. Pseudo Regalia was it's like if Mario 64 was a Metroidvania is the best way to describe it.
That's cool.
It's pretty good. So those are my 3 favorite games I played in 2024, and maybe we can do some kind of a fun show like that at some point.
All right. I need to choose one. I will try and choose a Smite related question. We've been talking about this a lot. Can chat be disabled for new players until they have enough time in the game, but they still have the option to turn it off and are informed this is taking place and where to disable it. So I know last night we were talking about chat.
Yeah. So the initial design for chat was for it to not be on by default. But there was a lot of, for a system like that to work, there are a lot of breadcrumbs you have to leave to tell people you really should turn this on.
Yeah.
Because you want like 90% of your player base to have chat on, right? Like you don't want people to not be able to not be able to communicate with each other. So you really need like a lot of like, if I push enter to talk, it's like, you don't have chat turned on. You should probably do that, you know? And it's like, and maybe something that pops up, you're missing messages because your chat's not on, you know, like there's a lot, there's just a lot of things that you need to do to lead people to turn their chat on or else they never will. Yeah. Right. And so we felt like we couldn't get all that done. And if we started with chat off by default, just no one would have chat on and it would be useless. And so we made the decision to just have it on by default for everybody. We didn't consider the idea of leaving it off until a certain level, which is interesting. I don't specifically know how we do that, but there's probably a technical way to do it. But I agree that like it can be too much for new players sometimes if people are being dicks to them. But there's a big internal debate, I would say, and this probably happens to every studio. Yeah. This happens where it's like, I believe that in a multiplayer game, you have to take some of the bad with the good, and that it is more positive overall to be able to interact with the people that you are playing the game with than it is a negative to have the occasional idiot who, you know, is bullying or whatever, right? Which this isn't to excuse those people. This is just me saying that, like, I don't think any game in the history of games has ever been able to completely eliminate that.
Yeah.
The other side of the house, which I think is another fair assessment, is like I'm just so upset anytime anybody says something negative to me, and I never type anything, and I don't want it on by default because it just makes me mad, right? And I think that's a fair take, right? But like, I don't know how you solve for both groups equally well. And I think that's partially why we have like a filter now that is, you know, some people think it's too aggressive. Some people think it's not aggressive enough. And you don't see many people posting on Reddit about, you know, it not being aggressive enough, but we get like bug reports and support tickets all the time about like, so-and-so said this to me. And like, that's not cool. Yeah. Right. And I agree. It's not cool. So I think that it's very hard to make chat a feature that benefits everyone who uses it as a function. And, you know, somebody says restricted to be VGS only for new players until you reach a certain level. VGS is really hard. You're not going to learn VGS for a long time.
Yeah.
And I agree that VGS is a great system, but it's just, you know, a new player is not never, but is very rarely going to communicate with VGS. So a lot of stuff that we can do better there, but I think it's a good discussion to be having.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got one more before we head out?
I got one more thing just because this question just popped up. Why not just have a chat filter toggle? So we are required to have certain things filtered because of console and platform rules. So regardless, there needs to be some level of filter that we cannot turn off. We could theoretically turn off other filtering, but I think that, you know, that's just tech work we haven't done yet. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got. But I appreciate everybody. You're great.
Yeah. You all are great. Thanks so much for tuning in. Sorry to end on a kind of sour note there.
No, I think it's a normal note. I think it's like, you know, people ask these questions because they want answers, and I'm always happy to give answers. Not as happy of a note as my 3 favorite games I played last year, but, you know, you got to take us in a negative direction. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
I'll end with my three favorite games.
3 favorite games from 2024. Go for it.
Last year, I finally, I don't know why it took me so long because I love rhythm games, but Crypt of the Necrodancer.
I've heard that's really good. I didn't play it.
Good.
Okay.
It's so good. Another one is Getsu Fumiden Undying Moon.
I've never even heard of that.
It's like an Asian style Metroidvania roguelike.
That sounds like
super
it's
fun.
up my alley.
Yeah. And then then another one was kind of cozy. I've been meaning to play it for a long time, but Dwarf Romantic.
Okay,
Just
yeah,
a
yeah.
cozy
Dwarf Romantic's
kind
good. I played
of
that.
world building game, tile based, where you're putting your tiles and building cool stuff. So
Yeah.
those are my 3 favorite games I played last year.
3 good games.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sweet. Well, chat, thanks so much for tuning in and joining us for our Wednesday show. We will be back here on Friday for our last show in this room before we move over to the new building next week. But it'll be a really awesome show with Emma from the UI team. We'll be talking a whole lot about UI stuff, processes, and some of the features that the team has been cooking up on the UI front. But
Yeah, it's exciting.
until then, hope everyone has a great rest of the day, great rest of the week, and we will catch you back here on Friday at 1 p.m. ET. Peace.